Hello, I'm James, and I'm an old guy in Europe. Hello and welcome to episode 12 of An Old Guy in Europe. This week I share one of my many appearances on the Good Morning Portugal Show, this one back from April of 2022, where I share my thoughts on love and revolution in reference to the mostly peaceful revolution of 1975 here in Portugal that I have made mention of a few times in my other videos. I was particularly inspired by a phrase from something that Carl quoted in this particular Good Morning Portugal in relation to the revolution, and that was the phrase, "When the thirst for freedom overcame all fears." And that just touched me in a place that I really wanted to talk about it. So here's me talking about love and revolution on Good Morning Portugal. So I hope you enjoy it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
James, I can't believe it. I've been wittering on, and it's time to go to James. I can't believe it's 8:45 already. So I'll have a little sip on me Honeygger this morning whilst chatting to the man himself, Senor Slug. No, sorry, James. You've got to go back off. I haven't played the theme tune yet. Wait a minute. No, he's got to have the theme tune because we've worked hard on the theme tune. Here we go. Here it is. Do love that music, that little ding at the end there. Reminds me of 30-something, a show I loved in the 80s. Probably not that much older than 30-something himself. Mr. James Holly, an American. How are you today? Talk about you.
I'm wonderful, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. I've got something that needs the attention of a bit of a Honeygger, which I will quietly sip on whilst you muse and reflect away. What's on your mind this morning? Are you having a good Freedom Day? Did you have a nice weekend?
I had a wonderful weekend. Took a great walk yesterday, and the weather was far better than anticipated. It was sunny and warm and clear, and it was just a great day to be outside. So did that in addition to my normal Sunday grocery shopping, trip to the villa for fresh bread, all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
made for a great day.
Yeah, yes. Good for you. Good for you. So what's on your mind, Mr. Holly, Senor Holly?
Well, imagine that somehow revolution came to mind. But I have a little twist on it because I was very inspired by the quote from the video that you have shared a few times regarding the revolution, because the thirst for freedom overcame all fears. Yeah, and I was really, me too. And I think a lot of people did. I'm noticing in comments that, it seems to really resonate with us. And I looked at where does that resonate within me. And it was right in the same place as when I think about love. And I said, okay, well, maybe I'll think a little bit on love and revolution and how those things may come together. So that's what stimulated the thought for today. I did want to backtrack just a bit from last week because we were talking about breath and breathing. And several people were making jokes about, how can we not breathe? And I understand all that. But one of the things that I meant to say, and then it got by me, was that when we are emotionally overwhelmed, we stop breathing. Think of it, if we get scared all of a sudden, we just stop. Absolutely. When we have a very strong emotional response to something, we don't realize it, but we're not breathing in that moment. So breath can be very grounding and very healing in that regard. And I just wanted to throw that in too. I actually had a client once who I asked him to feel his feelings, and he just stopped breathing. I said,
Wow.
take a deep breath and tell me what you're feeling. And he stopped breathing. I said, do you realize that you are not breathing right now? And he went, oh my God. Anyway, so I think that was, somehow that felt valuable to me.
True. Well, I mean, it's there. It's all the clues are there, aren't they? I mean, when people get really hysterical, they are breathing very shallowly indeed, aren't they?
Yes.
At the other end of the extreme, some of the greatest experiences of feeling alive are accompanied by deep and heavy breathing, aren't they? Let's face it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So
I'm thinking of running, for example.
Well,
yeah.
I thought of something else, but very same concept.
What do you like? Okay, go on. Sorry, I'm interrupting your flow there.
So then in thinking about revolution, the word revolution in Love and Revolution, because this is how my brain works, it's on 15 tangents all at the same time, constantly, except when I intentionally slow it down a bit. I remembered a brief, I guess I'll call it a mockumentary, called How Beer Saved the World on the Discovery Channel. And
sounds good.
And one part of it was the comment that the whole thing was based on the influence of beer in the history of the world and how it influenced everything that was important. And one scene they depicted visually was back in the late 1700s on the east coast of what's now the United States. A bunch of drunk guys were sitting around in a tavern consuming large quantities of beer. And one of them said, screw the king. Let's just go throw a bunch of tea off his boats. And I said, that's probably how it happened.
Yes. Yeah.
Screw the king.
Yes. Yeah, it sounds like it quite easily have been how it happened.
Yes. So that kind of kicked off my thinking about revolution today. And I recommend, you can find that video on YouTube. It's called How Beer Saved the World. But I noticed there were more than one titled that. So it's the Discovery Channel's 43-minute video, whatever. It's quite entertaining. And I think there's some valid points in it as well. I don't think it's all made up.
And you're referring there to, of course, the Boston Tea Party, I think, right? Where the beginnings of the Americans overthrowing the yoke of oppression of the British, which of course could be slightly awkward between you and I right here, right now. But
I thought about that too. I said, well, I was going to say exactly the same thing, and that's why I changed it to the king, because those people that were throwing tea off the boats were British.
Oh, okay, right. I didn't realize.
They weren't Americans yet. They were Brits. So it's like, wait a minute.
Yes.
But we tend to forget.
We do, don't we? We do.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can still be friends. That's good.
So today's thought exercise, love and revolution, and how to, what's the connection? The first connection for me was the quote that I gave about the thirst for freedom and how that landed in me anyway, in the same place that love lands. And I started thinking about love, and many years ago, in my early college days, we were in one of my classes. We were given a thought exercise. And I just want to say this was long before Foreigner pleaded for the information and Hadaway asked the question directly. We were posed with the thought, what is love? Like, brand new thought throughout history. What is love?
No one's ever done that before. Yeah.
And I don't know if you got the references to Foreigner and Hadaway, but think about it. You'll figure it.
Yeah, no, I got it. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Sometimes I don't know if my humor is just so obscure that people are going, "What?" or people are getting it. So
that's why this is so good. We can maybe get a scorecard that we produced before. People can tick off the bits they get.
which jokes landed? Yeah,
that's right. Oh, you're singing Hadaway. Yes, got that. Foreigner. Yep, got that. Tea Party. No, Tea Party.
No, Tea Party, huh? What? It's not 4 p.m. Oh. Okay, so back on track. The professor of the class suggested that one way to get at the answer to what is love might be to look at what is the opposite of love. And that intrigued me. My immediate impulse was that the opposite of love is hate. But as I processed that, as I do, I realized that love and hate are both very powerful emotions, and that they're not really opposite. They're kind of two sides of the same coin. So hate wasn't settling well for me. And so I said, well, if it's not hate and it's not love, because they're both very strong emotions, then what is the opposite of a very strong emotion? And that would be no emotion whatsoever.
Yes.
And that then looked to me like apathy. So I started looking at that, apathy. And at least in my experience, one of the worst things I could imagine. I'm sorry? Okay. One of the worst things I could imagine in my experience of relationship was to be told by someone that I loved that they just didn't care.
Yeah.
I don't even think of you. So to me, it's like, oh, that's kind of the opposite of love, like just not caring. And I went with that for a while. I said, yeah, that seems to work pretty well. But I tend to be open to new ideas. And I was introduced to a book called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, in which he professes to have conversations with God. And you can take that any way you want. I found it very interesting. And in his conversation, he discovered that the opposite of love wasn't, or not what it wasn't. So the opposite of love was fear. That there are basically two fundamental emotional states in humans, love and fear, and that they can't coexist. So you're in one or you're in the other. So literally you're in love or you're in fear. And I started examining that. And as I progressed through my training in psychotherapy and started working with clients, I found consistency in there. Love and fear were sort of the opposite. And I could go, I've got a whole other probably 20 minutes on what the difference between them is, but I won't go into those details now. So I looked at apathy. I looked at how that applies to love and then into fear. And then that brought me kind of, well, I won't go there yet.
Oh, you're teasing us this morning.
Yeah, I talk about the energy of love or the feeling of love versus the energy or feeling of fear. And to me, love is the energy of love is expansive, free, generous. It's inclusive and welcoming. It's courageous and it's unconditional. There's a sense of expansion with the feeling of love. Whereas fear is the opposite again. It is restrictive, constraining, binding. It's selfish and exclusive and rejecting and even cowardly. So in every adjective I use for love, the opposite adjective for fear seems to apply in virtually every case that I've applied it since.
Can we go experiential here, James? I mean, let's not talk about it in the abstract, right? I mean, when you were saying these things, I was feeling it. Actually, this, and I would pride our community on that. This is a kind of safe space, isn't it? Mainly, to when we have these moments, don't we? We have these outbreaks of love and good humor and goodness and connectedness here. And I could feel it when you were talking about it. And I would encourage and invite people to do that right now if they feel comfortable, to feel expanded and open and friendly, especially on this day of all days. That's another great sense of freedom, is it not?
Absolutely. And if you take a nice deep breath in through the nose, and out through the mouth, you can get there too.
Woo!
Yes.
Yes. Two grown men feeling love together. First thing in the morning. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're not afraid to say that. So
We're not afraid to say that.
that's right.
That didn't
Love is
contract me.
love.
Yes, yes.
Somebody tell Hadaway quickly.
Yeah, can you get Hadaway on the phone, please? Yeah, okay. Yeah, we've got a
And
message
the tune, what is love? Oh, and I can't get it out of my head now. So
Well,
that brings me.
Go on, sorry, mate.
I just say that brings me full circle to this whole phrase, the quote from the video, because the thirst for freedom overcame all fears. I realized I could just replace freedom with love. And there it was, because the thirst for love overcame all fears.
Oh,
I think that's what love does. And
yes.
So I said, so a revolution, almost of any kind, but particularly this one of the only mostly peaceful revolutions that we are aware of, the feeling of it really is one of love. And I think that's part of why that phrase resonates so deeply with us, because the freedom and love are tied together, and we feel it in the same place when we hear that quote. Yes. So that was my little mental process this morning.
Thank you, James. And when I first heard that, and I have been in communication, we will speak to this lady at some point who uttered those words. She is a political commentator in Portugal, and I think she'll come and speak to us. I imagine she's quite busy at this time of year, because it is her speciality. And I watched it on a YouTube video, I heard her say this, and I thought, hold on a minute, I must rewind that bit. What did she just say? Because the thirst for freedom overcame all fears. And I thought, I've got to abstract that part of it's because it's quite a long conversation she's having. And I must abstract that and put it with some nice music and create the video that you heard there. And it came with her blessing. Actually, I became, yes, I would love a coffee. With milk, yes, please. You're not going to believe what gesture she made there to ask if I wanted that with milk. Anyway.
Don't do that to my mind.
Sorry, James. I was so inspired when I heard that and wanted to make the video and put it all together. And then I thought, that's not polite to just go ahead and do that and take someone's words like that. And I just hoped that she would be fine about it. And so I dropped her a line and said, look, I've done this because I was so inspired by what you said. She, yeah, cool, go ahead, use it. And it's become something, it's an anthem among us, isn't it? Because I've maybe played it so many times now as well. But it's really very special. And I'm glad it resonates with you as it has done with me. And I think other people, Rebecca here, the drive for freedom overcame all fears. As you've remembered it there, Rebecca, who also says, actually, yes, I can feel my students hold their breath when it's final exams time. So, yeah, that's what it does, isn't it? And it's a autonomic, isn't it? Automatic reaction for the body's physiology to shut down. And it's a protection, isn't it, of course? It's not a bad thing in its own way. Intrinsically, it's the right thing to do, isn't it? To petrify and preserve yourself. But I think perhaps we overuse that faculty and we're not conscious enough of how often we might be doing it in life. And Rebecca shares with us. Thank you, Rebecca, for being so open this morning. I notice when I'm worried and afraid, I pull away from my daughter. And it's true that fear blocks love. And Bob is here this morning. Viv just mentioned to me that fear and love cannot live in the same space. And I think that's basically what you were saying. Even the Bible says that perfect love casts out all fear. And there are one or two nuggets in that fine book. So yes, thank you very much for that, Bob, there. That's superb. And we will come back to many more of your comments later on, because many were made earlier on this morning. But it's been fantastic, as usual, to speak with you, James. Anything you want to add to that? Anything you're going to be doing to mark Freedom Day yourself? And the other question I was asking, what might freedom look like in 2070? Oh, and there was something else I definitely wanted to ask you, actually. What could freedom look like in 2070? Did that stimulate anything in you?
It got me a little too far out in the future. the farther away I get from right now, the bigger a stretch it is for me.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, just in this moment, there are questions of mortality and how long will I live? And I don't know that I'm going to get to 2070. That's another 48 years. So, I'd be a pretty old guy by then.
Some of us, that's right. Some of us will be really free by then, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. So just in this moment, when you pose the question again, so what would freedom look like to you on a very personal level? It's what I'm doing right now. That my choice to leave the United States, to start a new life somewhere else, a place of choice, not to unlike you're born into a family, and so they're your family, but you can consciously choose a family that works better for you, or that, and there's freedom in that choice. There's freedom in the life I'm living now that I have never experienced before. So thank you for the reminder.
Oh, James, and look, Rebecca really resonating. We'll call her Resonating Rebecca this morning. The thirst for freedom overcame all fears perfectly sums up my move to Portugal. Look at that. I didn't have all the answers. I took the step, and I trusted I would know the next step. Bless you, Rebecca, for sharing that with us this morning. That's fantastic. Rebel Mama, women who've had babies learn the importance of breath control during labour. Absolutely. Yes. Not that I can add anything intelligent to that particular comment, but I'm sure you're absolutely right there from my observation rather than participation in such a thing. James, so good. I mean, something I wanted to add before you go is with the masks coming off, and all of that means metaphorically, symbolically in Portugal, which is what's happened. And actually, it's part of a list of things that I have from Safe Communities Portugal. Safe Communities Portugal, Good News Week they're opening with so much bad news in the world at present. Let's celebrate some good news here in Portugal. One of the things that they're celebrating is masks, the mask mandate dropping here in Portugal. And that feeling of love you were mentioning before, that comes up for you, and the thirst for freedom overcame all fears. I actually, the idea of masks coming off reminded me of the feeling of seeing a loved one again. And seeing people again fully, without a mask over their faces, and notwithstanding all the, the comments people might wish to make about it's too early or it's too late or it's what's never necessary or anything like that. Putting that to one side, I have experienced this great sense of relief and connection with the very idea of the masks coming off and seeing people again. So yes. I'm very glad of that. And that's, I think, for me, is certainly part of that we can co-opt that into Freedom Day and freedom from face coverings, as useful as they may have been. It's good to see the back of them, in my view.
Yeah. Well, the family that I'm renting from, every Sunday since I've been here, or nearly every Sunday since I've been here, we go into the Villa of Ericeira. And we do our, pastelaria stop. We get, our bread, and sometimes we get coffee and pastries. And then we go to the mercado. It's not really an open market, but it's a large building where people bring their produce in and sell personally. So I've been getting familiar with the people that we interact with in those environments. And it only just this moment occurred to me that prior to yesterday, I had never seen any of them without a mask on.
Wow.
So all I knew were the eyes and the personality that went with the eyes. And I started seeing faces, and it was almost like, who's that? Yes. Almost like I could see the bottom half of their face, and all of a sudden it was a different appearance. If I looked at the eyes, those are the familiar eyes. But the smiles that accompany those smiling eyes were just, I don't want to say overwhelming, but very moving. There was definitely a sense of connection that was created from liberating the face. So, it was.
I find that so moving. I really do. That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
Excellent, James. I wish you all the best and thank you for your.
Thank you so much.
Excellent and erudite reflections. Looking forward to another one already next week. The message from the Redwoods. Have a great Freedom Day, my friend. And we will, of course, see you next Monday again. Let's play you out with you. All the best, mate.
Yes.
Ciao, ciao.
I'll join you all on the show now.
Let's share as many Portuguese goodbyes as we possibly can. Okay, should we play Portuguese goodbye bingo, and we'll see who can keep going. Okay, see who wins this. So I'll go with a Até logo. Over to you.
I missed the setup. What are we doing?
You know the many ways of the Portuguese people saying goodbye, because I think there are.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah.
So we'll have a little battle here.
When I wrestled with was Até já, but I now use it appropriately. Yes.
Okay, I'll meet your Até já with a ciao ciao.
Okay.
Come back at me, bro.
All I've got is all the ates.
Go on, keep going. That's fine.
Boa fim de semana.
Oh, come on, man. It's Monday.
Keep in mind,
that was unfair to you. You weren't prepared for that, and I was.
You've got as many years as I've got months.
All right. I feel a bit bad now.
Don't feel bad.
I'm sure somebody. I've had a pronunciation note from Maxine Balance, but thank you very much for that. Is dairy milk in there, right? Thank you very much. I've had a pronunciation note from Maxine already this morning. Look, here we go. There's me crowing about my many ways of saying goodbye. It was Muraria, I think, not Muraria, as I was saying earlier on. Muraria, that wonderful cake shop in Tomar. Okay, earlier on. James, let's hit it with the theme tune, and we will see you next Monday, my friend. And we'll see you on the show in a few seconds. In the comments.
And I'll try to get Hadaway out of my head.
Yeah, no chance.